could find it. And the we had two engineers from Poughkeepsie, the design engineers for that computer. They would come down, spend a couple of weeks with us there, and they would do all kinds of checkout and stuff. And I did all kinds of checkout also, and never could determine what was going on. Those two would go back to Poughkeepsie, and two more would come back, and they would go through the same thing, and nobody could find anything. Finally, they all took off, and I was there in Building 12, where we had the what they call the direct couple system, because they were direct coupled to make it two computers, where one computer could look at the other's memory, and the other one could look at this other guy's memory, and that's the way they passed information back and forth. The 7040 would read the programs in off a tape or disc or card punch cards, and would put them in the other guy's memory. Then it would send a signal that says it's in your memory, and it would pick it up and then process it at a high speed. It was called the scientific computer. And when it was done, it would put stuff back into memory, and then they would tell the other guy, I'm finished with this stuff, take it and give me another job. And so that's what he would do. He would take it, give him another job, take this job, printouts or card punches or tape or storage, the information.
So you had one computer that would do the physical chunking of the information.
Yeah, the chunking, the computing.
To another computer which would manipulate the data until it got an answer, and then it would send it back to the physical computer to then what?
Well, okay, like I said, you had two computers. This one over here is the one that would read the information in initially, whether it be punch cards or,
right,
or something from disc or something from a tape.
Okay.
And then he would throw it over here in this guy's memory, and then tell him that, okay, the data's there, and then this guy would go to high-speed computing. And
how many megabytes are we talking about?
What megabytes?
Kilobytes?
No, kilobytes.
Holy cow!
It was. It was.
So that was the high-speed computer.
That was 32K of a 36-bit words, which is 4 bytes.
Uh huh.
Four bytes times 32, 128 kilobytes.
Uh huh.
And then this one over here had a little bit more.
And how big a room would hold all this?
Well, but from here to the wall and about from here to the fence.
So we're talking about a quarter acre?
Yep, it's a large area.
Yeah.
But compared to today's speeds, they were extremely slow compared to today's speeds.
Well, we're
before
talking,
its
what,
time.
1960s?
Yep, 1960s, in the 60s and 70s. But they for their time, they had that was a lot of memory for that time.
That was cutting edge.
That was cutting edge, and the very first, and these were all what we call these little donuts, the cores,
Mm-hmm.
magnetic iron cores,
Mm-hmm.
and you could hold them in your finger like this, one bit. You could hold it like this, and then they would put them in there and make it into a 36-bit word.
Mm-hmm.
And then that would get stored and fetched, and they had, and inside of it there was 4 wires that would go through it, and then the 4 wires were if you're going to store a 0, you would put a current going through there and then a current going in the opposite direction, and it would not flip that core, and it would stay a 0.
Mm-hmm.
If you're going to put a 1 in there, then you put the current going both in the same direction to flip this over into a 1.
Mm-hmm.
So and therefore the arrays were about that big, and about that tall.
Goodness.
and it didn't have much. And later on in by 1965, they'd already come up with the smaller cores and faster. And then after 1965, they came out with the chips.
And semiconductors?
Semiconductors.
The guy from Texas Instruments?
A transistor was about that big, just a little, about that big for one transistor.
Yeah.
And then after we come through with the chips, and the chips were about that big.
Had 8 legs on them.
Yeah, and you look at it, and all you could see was like a mirror finish. You couldn't, when you concentrate, you can see the little lines inside of it going all over the place, and then the transistors in there, and you can put.
So those are the semiconductor transistors. They're no longer the little 3-prong transistors.
No longer the 3 prongs with a base emitter and collector. They still were base emitter and collector, but they're tiny.
Yeah.
And so at any rate, I was showing the original 7 astronauts that came by there to see what a large computer looked like.
Right.
And so we explained to him what this area does, that area does, and that one does the high-speed computer, and this one does the management of the everything that's taking place.
So the Series 7000, that's what was used to help them make the space program?
The initial space program through the Gemini series, and then the beginning of the Apollo series, and we had both of them in the computer room. We had the 7000 series here, the old one, but it had been proven out, and they had all the programming, all that stuff done. And then the 360 Model 75s had them side by side, and we were running diagnostics, and the programmers were programming it because the computers were a little bit different. They had to modify programs and check them out on the 360. And it was going to take maybe 1 or 2 years before we could get to where the 75s would take over. But then the astronauts, I think it was Apollo 1 or 2, I forget exactly which one, but they went into their spacecraft for training. And they went in there, and then there's a wire that, or some insulation caught fire. And the 3 astronauts were in a pure oxygen atmosphere.
I think that was Apollo 3.
Apollo 3, yeah.
Yeah.
And when that fire occurred, it just, they didn't have a chance. They didn't have a chance to even get out. Killed.
Yeah, they mentioned that in that Apollo 13 movie with Tom Hanks.
Yeah.
And Beth Ann was asking me if that really happened, and I was telling her, yep, it really happened.
Yeah.
So this is my dad, Jasper Castillo, Jasper B. Castillo Jr., and he's telling his stories, and it's September 5th, 2015, and we're in the backyard. Yeah. And this is my mom, Dora Castillo.
Today is September the 6th.
Okay,
dear.
6th. September
6th. It's Sunday. Sunday, September the 6th.
Thank you very much.
That's what the church. That's what the church.
Parity check. That's her.
Okay.